Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. The Latin term for that sentiment is Carpe diem. Now, who knows what that means?
Carpe diem. That's seize the day.
Welcome to the weekend update. I don't usually show off my body, but Carpe diem, I'm showing off this shirt. Guys, thank you for joining and being part of our community at the weekend update. I'm going to jump into some things in the market. I've got a lot to say, but I've got a lot more to do. It's been an incredibly busy week, and I want to address the headline for this week, the great wait. And if anything was indicative of January home sales on existing homes, I think that was it. There was no great rate in November, December, and that preceded the great wait from people waiting to get into 2026 where they can re-engage, reactivate. And as I've told you for the last couple of weeks, we've been receiving about one pre-approval for a purchase a day all throughout January and consistent in February. That didn't translate really into immediate activity until just the last couple of weeks. Let me share a story that we've got here. Let me jump into it. So we've got realtors report a new housing crisis as January home sales tank more than 8%. We'll drop a link down below. But again, thinking about closed contracts, those are entered contracts in for January, easily December, and in some cases even late November, where we didn't see as much activity from writing offers. Good news in this story, this is where you've got to pay close attention on homes that are in that first time home buyer price point. The percentage of first time home buyers rose, I believe, about 4% into the 30s for the first time in quite some time. So the great wait, not only related to first time home buyers, move up buyers, and especially your listing clients, your sellers that felt like, hey, without a rate and affordability that's palatable, there's no reason to be serious about selling our home. I think that time is starting to change, and I believe we're going to see a much better number in February for contracts that were entered in January. Let's go to the market here and see some really good news. I joked with the team earlier that I felt like this is the first time we've seen back-to-back good bond days since my 30s, and that's been some time, and I'm obviously exaggerating, but take a look here. We're green light go, just like I said last week in the weekend update. A few key reasons for that, and one of them is almost counter. We had a jobs report that came out that overshot expectations. 130,000 jobs created in the month of January, when that number was expected to be 70,000. So a number like that can generally shake treasuries and give us a little bump or increase in interest rates. That wasn't the case. Part of it is that I believe that bond buyers are not believers in that kind of economic or employment strength. For whatever the case may be, that number did come out from Department of Labor of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it was almost double the projection. So typically not a good read out for interest rates. It didn't have a negative effect. And then today, the big one, consumer pricing index and inflation, to put it simply, came in at or below expectations. We're seeing a continued downward trend. There was some numbers in what they call the super core that edged up a bit, but all in all, inflation seems to continue its cooling trend, while there's growing evidence that bringing the cost of money, or the Fed funds rate, downward should have some continued support, especially with the potential, the change of guard from Jerome Powell to a new Fed chair. So good news for interest rates here. Top stories in there will show we're nearing 3-year lows for interest rates. And for those that have been participating in that great wait, well, like I said in weeks past, we may see what we call the great thaw and unfreezing of some of the inventory and some of the buyer demand that's been stymied the last few years, certainly because of interest rates. So check that out. Let's talk about savings for a second. Another story that came out was an increase in applications for FHA mortgages. And while I will say there are so many advantages for people to obtain an FHA mortgage, it can be good from far and far from good for certain clients. And this is why you need a partner that can go in and talk about how, while there are rate incentives for taking an FHA mortgage, things like infinite monthly mortgage insurance, if you're putting the minimum down, and upfront mortgage insurance of almost 2% financed into your loan, can make FHA a detractor. Now, I think one of the biggest reasons people will turn to FHA is less for the rate incentive, because by the time you add the mortgage insurance up front and the mortgage insurance monthly, it turns out not to be as good as you thought it might be. Forget for a second that a lot of condos are not FHA approved. But I think the biggest reason is affordability continues to be an issue. FHA does allow buyers to go higher on their debt to income ratio. So you're going to see more approvals at higher debt to income ratios typically using FHA. That may be a reason for the jump, but there's some other ways we can bring debt to income ratios down, and it's all controlled by how we negotiate contracts, seller incentives, so that clients could obtain potentially a slightly higher rate without the upfront mortgage insurance and the ability to remove that mortgage insurance in the future. Speaking of savings, let's talk about our product highlight this week, which once again is Home Funded. Now, again, on the weekend update, we've got a resource page all for Home Funded, as well as live trainings. But in minutes, we can build a Home Funded portal for you, your team, your brokerage, that will allow folks, especially first-time home buyers, to start gathering savings for their down payment, plus crowd-funded down payment funds from people outside of their immediate family. What's more, if you're a first-time home buyer, and we've utilized several of these executed this week, CMG will match $2 for every $1, up to $2,000 in raised funds. So $1,000 from extended family member or friends actually turns into $3,000 worth of down payment or closing cost funds because of our $2,000 match grant through Home Funded. If you want information on that, get with me. We'll build you a portal all for yourself and help people get on the way to covering their down payment for their first time home purchase. Now let's talk about someone that maybe isn't a first time home buyer. And this is why who you work with matters in the wrong approach, why it's important that you connect your buyers with a trusted lending partner of your own. This is a little story about a stalker from a company, and I won't say their name, but if you know Guardians of the Galaxy at all, it's a little bit off to the side, but you'll know who that guy is, and his name is synonymous with this company. So client reached out to me this week saying that someone from this specific lender, major national lender, was telling them that they had an opportunity to save money on their mortgage. Now, we manage the mortgage for this client and have appropriate strike prices that we want to reach, targets we want to reach in order for it to make the most sense for them to refinance. The client told the person who'd called her daughter, who she co-signed for on this particular loan, several times, look, we're really not interested. We would like to see, based on our conversations with our advisor, the rates to come down a little bit more. And this is the response. The response from the loan officer, if you will, on the other end of the phone said, well, that's not really how rates work. There is potential for rates to go over 7% by summer, basically using kind of a takeaway approach. And it's frankly the wrong approach. And this is after several calls to both the primary borrower, the adult daughter, and the mother. And this is the presentation that they were giving them. You can save $239 a month. Go from your current interest rate, get a new interest rate, and save yourself $240 a month. Now, they'll need new mortgage insurance. They'll start their loan over again, and all for the low price of almost $13,000. Guys, it would take almost 5 years to pay this back, not to mention all the interest that the client's already paid. And when you get into the details, your clients, my clients, our clients are being basically preyed upon by lenders right now that want to show somebody the good, but then hide the bad. And the reality is, this is not a good deal for the client to pay almost over 1.5% in points and $13,000 in total closing costs to save $239 a month. There's a better way to do it. And I appreciate the client for letting us know. This is what's happening to your clients right now. So make sure you're setting them up with a trusted loan advisor, and that they've got someone they can trust while they're weeding out all these calls from people really just trying to drum up business that doesn't make sense. Again, great resources for you on Weekend Up, WKNDup.com. We'll have a new feature listing. I'll share that in just a second. Product Spotlight will go from the all-in-one, which is continuing to be a major, major tool, especially for the higher net worth buyers and higher purchase price categories. How we can use a seller buy down to really motivate folks. Now, again, if we're just under 6% on rates now, well, imagine if a buyer who's been on the sidelines could obtain a rate in the mid to low fives using a seller incentive, which we call list and lock. All the rate information you want about where rates are, why they're there. And then finally, our property of the week, Living in Harmony Grove. This property, beautiful property presented by Chris Plato. Open house tomorrow, 1 to 3. So if you got clients looking for a beautiful newer home up in Escondido, we all are familiar if you're in the San Diego County market with Harmony Grove. This property just hit the market. Go see Chris Plato tomorrow between 1 and 3 p.m. Okay, guys. Listen, Carpe Diem, seize the day, gather the rosebuds while ye may. Dead Poet Society and Robin Williams, one of the best actors in all of acting. Have a wonderful weekend. We're here if you need me. Loan officers is going to get busy with refinances. If that busyness or that business becomes a hindrance to your business, no, we prioritize purchase loans and clients every day, all day at the Stanfield team. If you need us, call, text, or email anytime. Have a great weekend. Wishing you success. Enjoy. Happy Valentine's Day. Love you.